Biden out. Is the Divine Nine and Kamala Harris in? CrowdStrikes again. And clown hookers. This is the Propaganda Report. I'm Brad Binkley. Make sure if you're listening via audio only that you let the ads play if you want to help out the show. We don't get any money if you skip past them. And if you want to avoid the ads, you can go to patreon.com/propaganda report. I take all the ads out for subscribers. Thank you, Lily and Bonnie, for the PayPal and Venmo donations that I just saw that came in earlier. And thank you to everyone who has and continues to support the show. I'm working on getting production and administrative help on that side of things so that I can do a better job at recognizing all of the awesome support that I get. I'm a one-man operation other than when Ian and Josh or whoever comes on to help guest host the show. Other than that, still trying to figure out a lot of the administrative side myself. It's a lot of jobs you do at once. I know I say that a lot, so I'm not going to harp on it. But thank you, everybody, for your support. The best way to reach me, by the way, because my email gets overwhelmed with spam, is on X at Freedom Act Radio. At Freedom Act Radio on X is the fastest way to get a hold of me. I do try to reply to what I see on my email, but it's gotten to a point where I might have to change my email again because it's nothing but spam. Let's get into the show. Make sure everything is up and live. It is. I think it is. Okay, get that off. All right. So Biden dropped out of the race yesterday, which I thought he was going to do. I talked on the show about how I thought Biden would drop out after Trump named as VP and after the RNC. And in doing so, Biden became the first incumbent president to drop out since Lyndon B. Johnson dropped out of the 1968 race. And he became the first presumptive presidential nominee to ever drop out of the race this close to the election. So this was a historic event that happened yesterday. Historic. Never before has this happened with such consequences at stake. And how did President Biden break this historic, globally impactful decision that he made? He posted a letter on X, just like Lyndon B. Johnson did. Everybody remembers the Lyndon B. Johnson X post? Wait a minute. He announced it on television like everybody expected Biden might do. Of course, he didn't have the X platform. But this raises kind of an interesting question. As Biden broke this monumentous news on X, not through his press secretary, not through a filmed address to the nation, but on a platform that's famous for Titty Tuesdays, is where Biden broke the news that he is no longer going to be running. This historic news. And hashtag Titty Tuesdays tomorrow. What's the thinking behind posting such a historic moment on the X platform? In my opinion, Biden's not okay, is the thinking. If he were okay and if he were in full agreement about this, then he would have done it during a special address to the nation that was recorded, maybe not live, but video recorded and then posted. Maybe they tell us it's live, but that's not what happened. When someone has dementia, and a lot of you probably have experienced this, there are times when you can get them to hand over the keys to the car. And then maybe the next day, they either forget they handed over the keys to the car or they change their mind. And they can get agitated that they can't get the keys back. It is a sad situation for anybody who's ever, it's definitely a difficult situation. And I'm sure a lot of you have experienced that with loved ones of yours. And maybe that is a little bit of what's going on here. Maybe that's why this announcement was made on the X platform. Maybe there was an agreement with Jill and Hunter and the rest of the family for some monetary value, because they're going to milk this for all it's worth. That's what the Biden family does, is they milk Joe Biden's name and his relationships for every single dollar they can get. That has been true since throughout his career. And maybe they made some sort of deal And they were able to get Joe to agree to a pre-written letter. He obviously didn't write that, but they got his ex written on it. I'll show you the document in a second because they do have his signature on it. And they decided to go ahead and post that baby on Joe's account so that it couldn't be put back in the can. So that if Joe forgets that it happened the next day, they'll show him all the news headlines. It's official. You signed it. There's your signature. We got this money in the bank, says Hunter. Hunter's got, brand new crack pipe. Look at this crack pipe. It's diamond encrusted crack pipe, Dad. I can't give this back now. There's a no refund policy on the diamond encrusted crack pipe and the flotation machine or whatever, the no gravity machine that he has put in Delaware, whatever. You can't put it back in the can. And maybe they got him to sign this thing and they just posted it, so there's no going back. Or maybe Joe even signed it knowingly and he said, that's fine, but you guys, I'm not going to deal with it. So I feel like that is kind of the situation that happened. There's no way, in my opinion, that Joe was like in his right mind and okay with this. They had to get this done and out there before he did takebacks on it. So they say Biden is going to address the country later this week. Later this week. This is the most monumental announcement. Even though it's really not surprising to a lot of people, but people act like they are. It's still a very monumental announcement. First time it's ever happened this late in the game. And we'll get to it later in the week, maybe. No definitive date, though. Maybe. Because he's got COVID and he's ill right now. They want to let him get better. Let's be honest. Would it surprise anyone if it was announced that Joe's condition is far worse than originally reported? Would that surprise anyone on the planet? I don't think it would. I don't think anyone on the planet would be surprised if that were announced. If it were announced that Joe is maybe not going to be seen or heard from a while because of how serious the conditions get. Because those of us who have not been brainwashed into just saying, oh, he's got a stutter. I mean, the man looks like he needs to be in full-time, not hospice. He's not there. But Jimmy Carter might be able to beat him in a foot race is all I'm saying. He needs around-the-clock home health care. And it wouldn't surprise anybody if there was some sort of sad reports on that. I hope he's okay. I hope it's not the case, but I did talk last week about how they were saying he's got an unproductive cough. And that, to me, because I remember dealing with circumstances like this in my own family, that is something that you want to be very careful about. And I wonder what's actually going on with him. I hope his family is taking care of him. I wish on people, I don't think Joe Biden is a good person. I think he's been a bad person. From my perspective, anyway. I wish that if he's going to step aside, that he could reflect on his past and, possibly the wrongdoing he's done and maybe make some attempt to apologize and redeem himself in the remaining time that he has. I don't hold my breath that that's going to happen, but I always wish for that opportunity over wishing for someone's demise. I know a lot of people disagree with me on that, but that's my idealistic hope when it comes to stuff like that. So here's the statement. I'll show you guys what he actually said. Hopefully my audio is working. If my audio is not working, you guys have just seen me moving around like a monkey for 9 minutes. And if you've watched that, silent moving around like a monkey for 9 minutes, I really appreciate it. Hold on. Oh, there it is. All right. Here is the actual, I'm going to read you a statement and read you some of the other follow-ups and all that, and then the fallout. I mean, it's been an interesting day with all of this. My favorite part about all of it is how the media, in a shocking development, Joe Biden, he's not shocking. There's nothing shocking about it. It was actually the day that I was predicting this announcement, and others as well, that this announcement would be made. Sunday, some predicted Monday. And but they're like, oh, we couldn't believe it. It blindsided us. We're the mainstream media. There it is right there. Maybe you guys can see that. I think you guys can. It says, my fellow Americans. I'll go through all of it because it is a historic moment. Over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress as a nation. Today, America has the strongest economy in the world. I don't know if that's true. We have made historic investments in rebuilding our nation and lowering prescription drug costs for seniors and in expanding affordable health care to a record number of Americans. We provided critically needed care to 1 million veterans exposed to toxic substances, passed the first gun safety law in 30 years, appointed the first African-American woman to the Supreme Court, woohoo, and passed the most significant climate legislation in the history of the world. Woo! Thank goodness. America has never been better positioned to lead than we are today. I know none of this could have been done without you, the American people. Together, we overcome a once-in-a-century pandemic and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. We've protected and preserved our democracy, and we've revitalized and strengthened our alliances around the world. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president, and while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. A lot of confidence in his ability to do that, seeing as this comes from a letter posted on X. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. No specific date, just later in the week. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to those who have worked hard to see me reelected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all of this work. And let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you have placed in me. I believe today what I always have, that there is nothing America can't do when we do it together. There's nothing America can't do when we do it together. We just have to remember we are the United States of America. He always says that with a lot of anger when he says, the United States of America. That's when the cocaine eye drops kick in usually. And then there's a signature down here. So this is obviously not a statement that Joe Biden wrote in his home. He didn't write this. There's no doubt about it. He would have said this if he had the capability to write this. And it's also partially what he always says. It's the same script for the most part, with a little bit of adjustments. But you see that signature. I want to get can you see that on the screen? I want to get a signature analysis here, really, which I'm going to show you here. Get rid of that. And so I did a screenshot. Of course, they can change this on Wikipedia. So on the left side, if you're looking at the screen, is the signature from the letter posted to Twitter, to X today. On the right side is the signature that Wikipedia has on file for Joe Biden's signature. Obviously, nobody trusts Wikipedia very much. And for all we know, this could be a brand new signature. He used to actually say junior in his signatures. So that changed around 2010, I believe. But, I don't know when the last time the Wikipedia was updated to have this signature, but it looks like the same handwriting to me. What do you guys think? Of course, is that an S at the end of the one on the left? So the one on the right from Wikipedia clearly says Joe Biden. The one on the left, it seems to say Joe Biden, but is that last letter, is that a small n with an S like Joe Biden's, or is that a streak intended to go into an n that is not completed? I don't know. It doesn't matter, really. I'm just curious. I think they could very well have coaxed him into signing something, and by getting that signature from him, they then rushed at Hunter and Jill, said, we got the hundreds of millions of dollars, a deal, whatever deal they were trying to make. And they went and got it to the media before Biden could do any takebacks. Or maybe Hunter just held his hand and Kamala, did what she does below the pants, and they just pushed his hand into signing it. This is what so that was at 1:46 p.m. that he posted that. And then, let's see, 27 minutes later, this was posted on Biden's account. Still didn't go to the media, go onto the X platform. And this is what he posted, not him, whoever it was, holding his hands and Weekend at Bernie's typing for him. My fellow Democrats, I've decided not to accept the nomination and to focus my energies on my duties as president. Okay. For the remainder, is it not your duty as president to make this announcement via video? Anyway, he's not all there, is what I'm saying. This is, to repeat something that has become a stereotype now, elder abuse. But Joe Biden, they need to get the Jim Carrey with the Joe Biden mask on back out, because the real one, he ain't up for it anymore. I've decided not to accept the nomination and to focus all my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term. My very first decision as a party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala. They call her Kamala now for some reason. Kamala Harris as my vice president. And it's been the best decision I've made. Today, I want to offer my support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this. And then it shows a picture of Kamala and Joe probably going, God knows what. And then it says, and if you're with us, donate to her campaign, Biden Harris. Okay. All right. So that's those are the posts that were made. And maybe Joe Biden knows, maybe he doesn't know. This feels like they just kind of forced him into it because his family got the right deal, because we know that they're blood-sucking vultures, and that's what Joe Biden taught him to be. So I guess it is his own fault. All right. Well, hold on one second here. So what does this mean for Kamala? Has been the question everyone's talking about. Queenla today. Predictit.org, which is the political betting site, has Kamala as being the candidate at 84 cents now. So it's like 84% likely candidate, with Mike Obama and his big D coming in at number 2 at 7 cents or 7%. Hillary at 5, Newsom at 3, Whitmore at 2, and then so on and so forth. But according to Axios, despite this endorsement from Joe, questions still remain about how Kamala will sew up the necessary delegates and make it happen, which I would guess she would do that the same way she's always gotten ahead in her career, which is by hook to and spitting on that thing method. She's the OG on the hook to. Okay, that is what Kamala's known for. If she is president, she's going to be president side chick. So I expect there to be a lot of dudes getting blowjobs on Capitol Hill over the next, and donors getting blowjobs from the future nominee for the Democrats in the coming weeks. I'm not even kidding. I'm being 100% serious. Kamala is going to be blowing dudes to get that nominee secured. Even though they've been reporting that Kamala recently, they've led us to believe that she is going to be the only one who can actually take all the money in the delegates. They're now reporting that there's no formal rule, that there's some other possibilities that someone could step in because of the lack of a rule about transferring the delegates from one candidate to another. And the DNC Rules Committee is actually going to be holding a meeting to discuss implementing a framework to secure the presidential nominee. It's going to be broadcast Wednesday on the DNC's YouTube channel at 2 p.m., so check that out. This is weird because they did tell us before that it's really difficult to give it to anybody else because Kamala can just get all of the money and they can just transfer it to her. But apparently that's a whole lot easier to do if Biden just steps down as president and makes her the incumbent. And what did it say here? Yeah, and he didn't do that. Will he do that? Will he make it? I mean, that's the next question. Does Biden step down and make Kamala the actual incumbent, which makes it easier for her to get all that? Or are they going to do one of these blitz primaries? So what I looked at first, I was curious about who was for Kamala and who has not endorsed Kamala. And right now you have Biden and the Clintons have endorsed her so far. Those who have not endorsed her, there's others as well, but the big names who have not endorsed her are Nancy Tits Pelosi, Chuck the Grill Master Schumer, Hakeem, whoever, Jeffries, and Obama has not yet endorsed Kamala. And they say they haven't endorsed her because they don't want to make it look like the liberal establishment is controlling, removing a candidate and then who the next candidate is, which it looks like that anyway. I mean, it looks like that anyway. But they have held out their endorsement, and also Whitmer and Newsom. So there's been reports about these two endorsing her. But when you read their statements, they have said complimentary things about her without explicitly endorsing her. So it's like they have left the possibility open that if it was decided that maybe Kamala isn't the best one, or is a little too toothy on the BJs to the donors, that maybe Newsom will suck a better dick. I don't know, but those two have kind of left it open. And we could still see the Blitz primary or DNC open convention chaos. But it seems right now that Kamala is the candidate. What's more entertaining? What takes away from the attention that Trump is able to get? I don't know. An open convention might be able to surpass the viewing ratings of the RNC just because it's new and people would want to see what the hell happens. As much as it seems like it's going to go to Kamala right now, I'm still not certain because of the wording of Whitmer and Newsom's. They did not explicitly endorse her yet. Maybe they will. We'll find out. Either way, it's still. Can you imagine Trump debating Kamala? Of course, Trump won't say this stuff. Trump won't say, like, you suck dick to get here. How many dicks you suck? Like, what Trump should do is he should do the thing where he puts up a screen again and he just puts one guy after another that Kamala, hawk to it to get here. Ending with her handler, Dougie Imhoff. How did the commentators react? I love the show the commentators put on. All the ones who were talking about pushing him, who spent the past 4 years covering up his health problems, and then all of a sudden decided they were going to point them out. Well, what the commentators decided to talk about how wonderful of a man he is and how great it is at what he's doing for democracy, and compare how Trump, he tried to cause an insurrection, but Joe stepped down because he cares about democracy, and he's such a great, wonderful man, and they love him very, very much. And they actually engaged in a crying who can cry better, pretend to cry better over how much they love Joe Biden. And I'll let you guys decide, with the two commentators being at the top of this contest. Van Jones tried really, really hard to cry for Joe Biden. I'm going to let you guys see how you think that he did. And then we're going to see how he compares to the other guy who was the best at trying to cry for Joe, which is Chris Coons. But first we see Van Jones, can you cry for Joe Biden's departure? Here he is. We'll see what you guys think. Remember, we're comparing Van Jones versus Chris Coons. Move that up. There's Van on the right. You can see him getting ready.
There's a lot of political stuff.
Like, I love that. So I'm going to take that back to the question, just so you guys can watch him working himself up like an actor and the little stumble over his first line there because he's so emotional. He's so emotional about this guy who whipped Corn Pop with a chain.
Itself.
Yeah, there's a lot of political stuff.
Sorry, I want to get the whole question there. I don't mean to keep taking it back. There's the porcelain doll. And she's got the Matt Gaetz eyebrows.
Former Obama administration official. And Van, obviously, you and I were talking a lot about this dynamic and how this was ultimately going to play out when we were covering the Republican convention in Milwaukee last week. And with this news, this entire campaign has just upended itself.
Yeah, there's a lot of political stuff. The Democratic Party is a family. At the end of the day, this is a family.
Look at that eye move. I'm sorry. I didn't even see that eye move before. Van Jones is really, it's like he's going to audition for a major movie role. The way I've auditioned for a number of movie roles that have demanded that you cry on command. And look, I can see an attempt. I can see an effort for someone to cry who's not really teary-eyed when I see one.
Republican convention in Milwaukee last week. And with this news, this entire campaign has just upended itself.
Yeah, there's a lot of political stuff. The Democratic Party is a family. At the end of the day, this is a family matter. You know, Joe Biden's body may not be as strong as it used to be. His language skills may not be as sharp as it used to be. His heart is as big as ever. His heart is as big and as true and as strong.
Oh, it's so big.
And this is the difference between a politician and a leader.
Yeah.
He made a selfless decision, and people are heartbroken. Even people who are pushing for this to happen. It's kind of like when your grandpa, you got to take the keys, and everybody, you got to take his keys, you got to take his keys,
right.
you got to.
Like I said.
And he's fighting, and everybody's so frustrated, and then you finally get the keys back, and then you just cry.
Yeah.
Because this is somebody that you love. This is somebody that you care about. This is somebody who was there for you. This is somebody you wouldn't be here without him.
Wait, no, he was there for you, just not his 4-year-old, 5-year-old now granddaughter, who the family refused to meet. Yeah, but there for you, Van Jones.
And you have to take something from him. Now, this is not, look, this politics is politics, but this is a human moment for one of the great humans in America. This is a huge moment for him.
So Van Jones is on the record for saying that Joe Biden is one of the great humans in America. Think about that. One of the great humans in America. His daughter has a diary about why she might be molested, listing as part of the reasons she might have been molested. Her father, one of the great humans of America, Van Jones says, showered with her probably inappropriately. One of the great humans in America.
Him, for his family, for all of us who love him, for all of us who wanted him to get across the finish line. But if you're a young person watching this,
sad. It's so sad. It's so sad.
This is leadership.
Yeah, it's leadership.
This is patriotism. This is what it means to put the country first, and put the party first, and put the cause first. When your arm gets tired, you let somebody else finish pitching the game.
Bring in the relief pitcher, Van.
That's what Joe Biden has done, and he's done that for all of us.
Thank
and
you,
so
Joe.
I just want to say, I don't know who's going to be the VP, the non-VP. I don't know anything about politics. I just know that I love this man. I care about this man. It was painful every day to sit up here and talk about him like he's just some problem for the party. Wait till we get to the convention. You're going to see people crying, standing, screaming, cheering. He may not get a chance to talk for 10 minutes. We finally get a chance to put our arm around this guy. He did the right thing for this country. He did the right thing for this.
So that makes it sound like they're going to try and Weekend at Bernie's show at the convention. I hope that happens. I mean, I would love to see an entire convention of Democrats trying as hard as Van Jones is right now to fake cry. Van Jones has been trying to drum up a tear since the beginning of this interview, but he can't do it. He can't do it. This is one of the worst performances, crying performances that I've ever seen. The guy is trying so hard, but he can't get that tear.
this party. All of us are going to be in this situation someday, and I hope that we take a moment to honor this man and to love this man. I love Joe Biden. I appreciate what he's done, and a lot of people are heartbroken today. Even if it's the right thing, it's still just horrible.
Still so horrible. So maybe what they'll do is maybe at the convention in honor of this wonderful man the Van Jones speaks of, maybe Van and all of the other Democrats who love him so deeply, as a thank you for what you did, Joe, maybe they'll let Joe shower with their daughters. Just one time. Joe gets the DNC, he gets to spend the entire DNC showering with every Democrat's teenage daughter because of how wonderful of a man he is. Those are tears coming down as they cleanse Joe, and he sniffs every Democrat's daughter who they sacrifice to the cult of Joe by what a crock of shiest that was. That was a terrible performance, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Did you guys believe that? I don't mean to poison the well on this. That was just a very, very bad pre-play. I mean, it was so... He'd been working on that all day. Is he done? Okay, yeah, screw that. He's done. All right, so let's watch the next one. Did Van Jones do it better, or did Chris Coons? Is Chris Coons the Biden? Does he work on Biden's campaign? I know he's a Biden guy. Chris Coons, Biden. Hold on, let me make sure I know who he is. Coons, he's the senator. I think he might be one of... I know he's one of his surrogates, but all the headlines, just like all the headlines for Van Jones, were about weeping, which he didn't actually weep. That was fake crying. As an acting coach, and I've taught acting classes. That was a poor performance. You have Chris Coons, Biden's BFF, they call it. Chris Coons weeps on air over president quitting. Let's see if he was able to drum up some tears for Joe. I hope somebody can. I hope one of these douchebags can actually work up some tears for the guy who, got them into this blood-sucking cult. All right, here's Chris Coons. Let's see what we rate his performance. I give Van Jones a C-.
Bob, as you say, Joe Biden is grounded. He's grounded in his...
Okay, so I'm actually going to take that back for a second. That's a 647, because I want you to see the beginning of Chris Coons. Just to show, because the preparation, because they cut back and forth to him.
We are now joined.
So Chris Coons joins this interview. I want you to look, for those watching, look at his eyes when the interview starts, when he comes on camera.
By the co-chair of the Biden-Harris campaign, Senator Chris Coons. Senator, thank you.
There he is. So you see him looking off camera, waiting for the go, and you see that his eyes and he's already got his eyes like he's been rubbing them for 10 minutes. So he came on camera with weepy cry eyes, preparing for this moment. Look at his eyes. One more time when he comes on. Watch this one more time.
We are now joined by the co-chair of the Biden-Harris campaign, Senator Chris Coons.
You ain't gonna fool me with this shit. Like I've done this shit for a living. This guy has weepy fake cry eyes. Like in an audition, when you have cry eyes like this, you go home embarrassed because you're like, I couldn't conjure up any real emotion. This is fake. And I'm going to take you to where he really starts getting worked up, or pretend worked up. Let me find that right. All right, here he is. Hold on. Now here's when he really kicks those babies. And that was on screen, right? That wasn't just me yelling. Here he is right here.
Bob, as you say, Joe Biden is grounded. He's grounded in his faith, in his family, and in our state.
There he goes, looking the way. He's doing, his classic fake cry move. No, it's classic.
Excuse me.
Sorry, I'll let you guys just watch. I don't mean to interrupt it so much. I should just let you guys just watch it.
Family and in our state. Excuse me.
So sorry. So sorry.
I'm sorry. This was a very difficult decision, and one that I think reflects the very best of who Joe Biden is.
So that was the first time they showed him full screen, by the way, is when they thought he was going to be tearing up like that.
Someone who, as you put it, Bob, comes home because it's where his strength is. His strength is in his family. His strength is in our community. His strength is in his faith. And as he was going through the excruciating loss of his beloved son, Beau, it was in Rehoboth, in Wilmington, in prayer, and surrounded by all who have loved and supported him for decades in Delaware that he found strength.
Okay, so that's where the crying, the fake emotion came out. This is apparently a talking point that was sent out. The talking points were obviously Joe Biden's a great guy. He did the right thing for democracy. Look at his opponent. He wouldn't let go of power last time. He did the insurrection. And Joe cares so much about, he's so selfless. He's so sweet, so kind, that he has decided to step aside. And it is breaking the heart of these defenders of democracy who had a little note in the action. So you read a script, it has the dialogue and it has the action. And in the action, it says, Van Jones attempting to cry, Chris Coons holding back tears. And probably a number of other politicians with a similar, if you can conjure up some tears, do it. And these are the two who we've seen unsuccessfully try. I'm going to give, I'm going to give Van Jones, I'm going to give Chris Coons a D+. I'm going to say Van Jones did it better because Chris Coons was clearly trying to drum something up before he even got on camera. Like he had his wife punch his balls or something like that to try and make him really cry or pull the hairs out of his nose. Well, Van Jones was on camera consistently when he tried to conjure up. Neither one of them could conjure up tears successfully. But I mean, look at his eyes. I think he put eye drops in his eyes, honestly. And look at his background for Chris Coons. How many little teapots can one man have? 4, 8, 12. His head's cried another 5 at 17, 19. That's at least 23 little teapots that fake crying Chris Coons has. Little teapots full of Biden tears. I mean, it's a fucking show. Excuse my language. I went almost the whole show without saying the F word. There they are. Okay, so the next question is Biden going to step aside and actually make Kamala, make her the first black female president and make her husband, Doug Emhoff, the first the first Jewish spouse of a president, who also happens to be a former powerful entertainment lawyer in Hollywood. Is he going to give the power of the presidency to the Divine Nine, the Black Freemasons, which Kamala Harris is very much a part of? Which makes me wonder if anyone, this is probably going to be a more relevant question if Kamala actually becomes a candidate. Will someone finally ask her about what I've been talking about for 5 or 6 years now, which is the weird Knights Templar story related to Kamala when she was the Attorney General of the state of California. She's a top cop there, and you can see on screen here. This is a 9-year-old story from 2015. Police department trio claiming ties to Knights Templar are arrested in California. The members of the Masonic Fraternal Police Department, one, an aide to State Attorney General Kamala Harris, face charges of impersonating the police. Now, I've covered this story a number of times on the show, so I won't go too in-depth in it, but to sum it up, there was these 3 people, one of them a top aide in Kamala's office, And they went around to all of these precincts, these police precincts in California. They got meetings using her top aide, Brandon Keel's his government ID card from Kamala's office to get the meetings. And when they got there, they were dressed as police officers, and they told these police precincts, "We are here to exercise our authority over you as a Masonic order, Masonic Fraternal Police Department, over you and every police department in the state of California and 33 other states and all of Mexico." That's what they had the audacity to go in and say. Now, Brandon Keel, which was Kamala's person, was like the number 2 in command, while the Grand Master, whose name was, what was that guy's name? Let me find that guy's name, because I'm going to show you a video of this. David Henry was the guy's name, who presented himself as the Grand Master, who in past shows I've shown you all the photos that this guy has with Bill Clinton and with a number of other politicians. They slip my mind right now, but I can, if she is the nominee, I will go through all of this again. But David Henry, his partner in crime, is actually an Emmy-winning journalist for a local Fox News affiliate. These aren't people who just come out of nowhere. These are people who believe themselves to be a part of something. And when this Brandon Keel guy was arrested, and he was charged with falsely using a government ID as well as impersonating a peace officer, he was asked by the investigator, "What did your boss, Kamala Harris, have to say about this, about you using her name to get all these meetings, to claim that you're descendants of the Knights Templar," which is what they said, descendants of the first ever police department in the history of the world, here to exercise your jurisdiction. He told them she knew all about it and she approved of what we were doing. That's what he told the police. Has anyone ever asked Kamala Harris about that? As far as I've been able to tell in years of researching this, no. The only thing that anyone has ever asked Kamala's office about it is something about Brandon Keel, that guy who was using the ID from her office. And the response from her office was that he was a low-level staffer that didn't really interact with Kamala, which is provably untrue, because he's actually someone who, when you look into documents that, and I have them saved, that were previously published on the California Attorney General's website, you see that Kamala Harris actually appointed Brandon Keel, this guy, to a special task force for truancy, which is making sure kids aren't skipping out of school and arresting parents if their kids aren't going to school, stuff like that. And that she actually thanked him personally in her own truancy report for the work that he has done, and that he reported directly to her. So a guy who reported directly to Kamala Harris, the potential Democrat candidate for president, was arrested for impersonating a police officer. They went to his house and the other people's house, and they had all kind of weapons and police gear and police cars. And there was a very big sting. Like this was not like a small thing. There was a number of people involved in this, and there's a bunch of weird pictures that came out of people becoming members of this with their nipples tied and all kind of weird stuff. And here's the weird thing about this story. If you've heard it, you know where I'm going. But it's the craziest story nobody's ever asked her about. No one. They were all 3 arrested. And only one of them ever did time in prison. It wasn't Brandon Keel, the one who works for Kamala, because shortly before his trial date, they threw his case out because of a claim that evidence against him was gathered by a police officer that violated his rights. They say he walked by his car and saw something in his car. It's totally the story, in my opinion, because there was plenty of other evidence, including eyewitness testimony. it seemed like Kamala's saying he works for me. I'm going to do him a favor. He's off. You don't hear from that guy. His internet footprint disappears completely. I did have somebody message me saying that they found the guy somewhere, and I looked it up, and this was after years and years. It appears that they might have, but I don't want to like dox that guy. He probably wants to stay out of it, honestly. If I had to guess. Because it's weird when you look at all the person's post on X up until that day, and then everything just disappears the day he gets a break. And so his case was thrown out, but the other two, his partners in crime, their case was not thrown out. The only one that went to prison, though, was the female that was along for the ride. And she was the girlfriend of David Henry, who called himself the Grand Master of the Masonic Fraternal Order. And by the investigators' accounts, she was just along for the ride and was really not doing much. Yet she's the only one who actually spent time in prison. Why did David Henry, this other guy, who also didn't get his case thrown out, why did he also not spend time in prison? Well, let me show you a video of David Henry, and that might open some eyes about that. I downloaded all of these videos, like every video from this YouTube channel I've downloaded, but I don't know if they'll eventually get rid of it. Hold on. I don't think I have it up here. David Henry. All right, here it is. All right, so this is a guy. You're going to notice his outfit. It'll definitely give you an idea, kind of you see that? He's got his Illuminati garb on. Now, whether this guy is actually just being played, which might be the case, he seems to think he's in something. But listen to what he says here.
Our lives have been threatened by the LA Sheriff's Department. Detective Amelia Hernandez put a hit out on me, Grandmaster David Henry, Reverend Tonette Hayes, and Brandon Keel. Please understand what you have done. I alerted everyone, from the President of the United States to the U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch, and to California Attorney General Kamala Harris. I alerted everyone because they need to know the corruption of the Los Angeles Sheriff Department.
I'm going to pause it there just to point out, you see over his right shoulder on the wall, that's an Emmy, because this guy was an Emmy award-winning journalist at a local Fox News outlet. So he seems crazy, but he genuinely believes some of these things.
Because they need to know the corruption of the Los Angeles Sheriff Department. Not all the deputies are bad, but just this particular group, Amelia Hernandez and her group, her clique.
For those listening, he is wearing white gloves. He's wearing a gold medallion that looks like the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill, and a chain and sunglasses, and everything about it screams Illuminati, which he claims to be a part of. And when you look at the Divine Nine, Black Illuminati that Kamala Harris is very much a part of, along with Fani Willis and all the stuff to talk about, it starts to make some of this stuff seem a little less crazy as the first time I covered this years ago.
What I am saying is they threaten to kill us by pulling us over or detaining us and taking us to one of their locations and killing us.
All right, so this goes on, and this guy has got you got a number of videos. I've played most of them on previous shows, but that is the guy who was partners with Kamala's guy, Brandon Keel, at the Attorney General's office. That guy didn't work at the Attorney General's office, but he was the Grand Master leader to the guy who got them access to all of these police departments where they could claim they were there to exercise jurisdiction as the descendants of the Knights Templar, Mason Fraternal Order, and he did not spend any time in prison because, he said there was a hit put out on him. Well, the day before he was set to be arraigned, it was either arraigned or his first trial date. I have to get the specifics on that, but the day before, he dropped dead. He dropped dead. The guy saying that there's a hit put out on him and he's begging Kamala to help him, whose buddy, Kamala, clearly got off on charges, who was never to be seen again, and his digital footprint disappeared. He dropped dead. Is it possible that he just had a pulmonary embolism the day before? Yeah, it is. My problems with all of this is that no one has ever asked Kamala about this weird as hell story that is easy to document in the San Francisco newspapers in 2025 and 2026. And I've covered it probably 10 times on the show. And she could be the nominee now. Will anyone ask her? Because they said that she knew about it and nobody's asked her. Whatever. It's just funny to me. If you guys have heard that, I'm going to keep bringing it up. Just because people need to know about it. It's like the craziest story I've ever heard in my life. All right. What was Trump's reaction? Trump had some reactions to Joe, maybe, I guess, stepping down via his whoever's controlling his Twitter account. And Trump had some True Social post, or whoever posts for Trump on True Social. And here's some of the posts he said. Who is running our country right now? It's not Crooked Joe. He has no idea where he is. If he can't run for office, he can't run our country. Biden never had COVID. He's a threat to democracy. It's not over. Tomorrow, Crooked Joe begins to wake up and forget that he dropped out of the race today. Blah, blah, blah. A lot of shit like that. They did immediately have a ad ready because they've already been talking as though Kamala is the candidate. And here's an ad they already have. And this ad from the MAGA War Room. Kamala was in on it, is the text. She covered up Joe's obvious mental decline. Kamala knew Joe couldn't do the job, so she did it. Look at what she's done. That's not a bad point. I mean, everybody, including the media who pretends they didn't know, knew Joe was out of it. Look what she's done. A border invasion, blah, blah, blah. American dreams dead. Let's see what this new ad that they had ready to go, what it says. I haven't seen this yet.
Kamala was in on it. She covered up Joe's obvious mental decline.
Our president is in good shape, in good health, tireless, vibrant, and I have no doubt about the strength of the work that we have done.
But Kamala knew Joe couldn't do the job, so she did it. Look what she got done. A border invasion, runaway inflation, the American dream dead. They created this mess. Kamala owns this failed record. Make America Great Again Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
I get what they're doing with that ad, but I don't know that it's the best ad. Even though they're saying that Kamala did it, and they're saying Kamala's responsible for things that you don't like, it's still making it look as though Kamala was able to oh my gosh, my boss's brain, it doesn't work anymore. Like she was able to scramble around and do whatever. I would just stick to where she covered it up and I wouldn't make it look like she was doing all, because she wasn't. I mean, she wasn't doing all the work for him. She's just a drunk who takes too much Ambien. That's what I would do. I would do Kamala's a drunk who takes too much Ambien. I'm speculating. I wouldn't assert it as fact, obviously. I would say it just looks that way. And then I would bring up the Knights Templar stuff she's never answered. But of course, nobody's ever going to do that. My campaign ad suggestions would get shot down immediately. It'd be like, what do you think we should do to go after Kamala? I'd be like, she sucks a lot of dick and Knights Templar. And they'd be like, all right, let's go with another idea. I'm just, I would rather just, hit her hard. Then you had, in response to all of this, you had RFK Jr. had a statement where RFK Jr. I don't know what the headline is, but RFK Jr. suggested that Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance was controlled by the CIA after Trump selected him as his running mate. He said in a press conference, and we have two crises, and they both derive from the same condition, Kennedy said. And that condition is the emergence of the domination of a corporate power over American democracy that accelerated beginning in 2010 with Citizens United case that unleashed a tsunami of corporate money into American politics. And he said both parties were captured by that money. And on the Republican side, he said President Trump promised the last time around he was going to drain the swamp, but instead he came in and he appointed a pharmaceutical lobbyist and a CEO to run the HHS. A Verizon lobbyist to run the FCC, a Goldman Sachs CEO to run the Treasury Department, an oil lobbyist for the Interior Department, and a coal lobbyist to run the Environmental Protection Agency. And only today, President Biden has announced that in his new administration, should he win, that Jamie Dimon will be the choice as Commerce Secretary and that Larry Fink as a director of BlackRock will run the Treasury Department. This is the swamp. They are the swamp creatures. And he also said, and his pick for vice president is a salute to the CIA and to the intelligence community and the military-industrial complex. Their gravy train is going to continue. Look, I don't disagree about good morning, quantum healers. Thanks for joining this morning. I mean, it's not a good look for the BlackRock. It's not a good look for... I'm not a fan of J.D. Vance. The argument that you keep your enemies closer. I don't know if it's smart if you feel like you're under the threat of being assassinated, that you make a CIA guy, if that is the argument, your VP, because then they take you out and he's whatever. I don't like the Vance choice, and not that RFK is going to be, a challenge, a threat to win. But it's also argued, though, that he's got CIA-controlled people working for him. They probably all have CIA-controlled people working for them. That's what's probably the most likely conclusion is. So CrowdStrike, where are we? How much time we've been doing? All right, so I'll do a few more minutes with CrowdStrike. I'll just go quick. So the CrowdStrike thing, you guys have probably seen it. I won't go too deep into it, but CrowdStrike is there's a global tech outage on Friday caused by cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike. You probably know it. You probably heard of CrowdStrike, where they're the company who got access to the DNC servers back in 2016 to analyze the hacking of the DNC servers. The FBI didn't get access to them. CrowdStrike did. The FBI went with their conclusion, which they determined Russia hacked the servers. They took their word, and if you know anything about CrowdStrike, and I won't go into all that, done many shows on that, as have many others, but they're very shady, and they had a very flawed assessment, and there's a lot of leaps in logic in their determination that it was Russia that was behind it. Kind of seems like they were just controlled in giving the conclusion that they were assigned to give, in my opinion. But it's the fact that they are a company that I had no idea that CrowdStrike was providing a antivirus software that all of these companies around the world were using to protect the most vital technology that so many people depend on. That if a flaw in their technology, which is what apparently happened, that it would cause millions of people their computers to shut down worldwide if they used Microsoft. Not everybody, but they had to use that Falcon antivirus thing. That it would ground commercial air flights worldwide. That it would take news broadcasts offline. It would disrupt banking, healthcare, and 911 emergency call centers. Billions of dollars, they're saying, worth of problems caused. Who pays for that? I don't know. But the fact that CrowdStrike is the one who caused this, and they admit that they caused it, obviously led to many conspiracy theories, which I believe are not out of question, giving CrowdStrike's history, with one of the theories that people are pointing to being the World Economic Forum's Cyber Polygon, which was a 2021 cyber pandemic exercise. Cyber pandemic exercise. in which they simulated a global cyber attack in which they described it as like COVID-like characteristics spreading around the world. You know, I don't know if this is part of it. Is it possible that this company could just have a flaw that affects a lot? Of course it is. But when their background is shady and untrustworthy, and when they are a company that if you're like the globalists and you go, who would I entrust to run a global test on shutting down all these systems? Well, this company who has already agreed to do seemingly what we want them to do when it came to the 2016 Russian hacking thing. Maybe this wasn't intentional, but it was done by the company that would do this kind of thing. That's my opinion on it. I can't prove that. That's just my opinion on it. These MFers, dude. But it didn't affect my computer, so I don't know if it affected y'all's. But I remember doing deep dives on CrowdStrike years ago. It's ridiculous. Like when I saw that name again, my first thought was they didn't change their name. Usually these companies change their name. There was this company called New Knowledge that was part of this secret experiment that Reid Hoffman did called the Alabama experiment, where they created all these Russian bots and they pretended to be conservatives to see if they could affect the Alabama special election in favor of the Democrats, which they did. They swung it in favor of the Democrats, and they wrote the whole thing off to, oh, we were just using Russian techniques, which that's actually the only verifiable evidence of those techniques influencing an election. And this was in the New York Times. They posted it, published it. Reid Hoffman admitted to it, apologized to it, and then they just never talked about it again. Turns out Reid Hoffman does this kind of thing all of the time. He funds these experiments to influence democracy under the guise of, we're just pretending to use Russian techniques. Nobody talks about it. But this company, New Knowledge, that it was a bunch of Brits and liberals that he got to do this. They all got kicked off of Facebook for being fake accounts. They were all pretending to be conservatives who they then blamed on being Russians, who were actually just liberals and Brits. It's really convoluted. But look it up. Alabama experiment, New York Times. Look it up. The company, New Knowledge, changed their name to Yonder, so that if you look up New Knowledge, you can't find all these people who were just con artists. And they have gone to bring their con to another company called Yonder, funded by the Brits. Some of it's partly funded by the Brits. I mean, this is a whole deep thing. I'm trying to remember most of it as I can off the top of my head. But Yonder is a company that now is a world leader in helping companies reclaim or reshape their image after they've been hit by fake news, which is probably real news, and they just shield it from it. So it's like so crazy. That might have not been the most clear. I am going to cover a story on that later this week, so I'll make it more clear. So I apologize for trying to riff off of that. But another thing about this CrowdStrike story is that the stock tumbled from what was the price of the stock? From 338 to 304, so like 11% drop. And some of the insiders, including the CEO of the company, they dodged missing out on all these losses because they sold millions worth of their shares day before, which people are always selling shares of things. So I get that things can look guilty, but the explanation which they give, which I don't necessarily understand all of this, is they say that these insiders sold their stock through so-called 10b5-1 plans, which are meant to remove the potential to benefit from knowledge of material non-public information, and the transaction under these plans and sales, as well as option exercises, are automatically executed. So they're trying to say that they didn't do it, and that when a stock whipsaws like it did, it can appear as though they were selling before, but that planned transactions were set up more than a year in advance, which I would say, if the planned transactions are set up a year in advance, my question is, perhaps, is it possible that a planned event like this that would drop the stock was planned a year in advance? I would actually think so, personally. But that doesn't mean anything. That's just a question I would ask. That's it. That's a question I would ask. He's insider trading, man. You're only guilty of insider trading if you stop going along with the narrative, I think. I think that's how you become guilty of insider trading. I think it's insider trading is what you do, but once you stop playing along, it's a crime that you've committed. One more story, then I'm out of here. A little bit more lighthearted. Thanks for hanging out, guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out this morning. All right. Well, little smoking gun. Smoking gun headline. Circus clown is charged in escort sting. Circus clown is charged in escort sting. Performer claimed it was his first time prostituting. But you know that's not true. If you're a circus clown, you make a living prostituting. Look at the images here on screen. This is the circus clown who was prostituting. You pull a bunch of handkerchiefs out, and the handkerchiefs continue coming, and then maybe a condom comes out. Prosecutors have charged the Pennsylvania man who works as a professional clown with attempting to moonlight as a hooker, according to court records. His name is Francis Bua, B-U-I, like boy. Francis Bua was named in a July 2nd complaint accusing him of promoting prostitution. Just a misdemeanor. Pictured above in a costume and in a mugshot. So he got arrested in his mugshot. Oh, wait, no, that's his mugshot. Thank goodness he wasn't in costume in his mugshot. I mean, that would have been funny, but I'm glad for him that he wasn't. Unless they made him wipe it off. Boy is known professionally as the Amazing Franco, and has performed across the nation at county fairs, schools, and other venues. County fairs are creepy. I like going to the fair. County fairs are creepy. According to the complaint, Bowie was snared in a mid-May undercover operation launched by police in Carbondale, a suburb of Scranton. Isn't that where Biden's from? Scranton. Investigators monitoring online posts offering escort services in the Scranton area described an ad offering sexual services by a male, later identified as Boy, who included his phone number in the sexually explicit post. I wonder what the post said. So I also want to know what these investigators mean by monitoring. I mean, how much entrapment was involved here by these investigators? Looking for a little clown furry sex or whatever. It's not like these weirdos. They have furry festivals where they're all unzipping each other's, tails and Lindsey Graham in the backside of it. These cops, like these people investigating this, are probably just as much of a perv as this guy is. In a subsequent text message exchange, the suspect allegedly offered to perform condom-free sexual acts on the undercover cop and quoted a $100 an hour rate. That is quite an offer. Condom-free sexual acts for $100. The cop agreed, of course, to the price and arranged a rendezvous at the Carbondale Hotel. I wonder who this guy thought he was talking to. Who does this guy dressed as a clown? This is my question about this. This is a person here, this guy. So this guy thinks he's a prostitute. So the premise of this story, from the cop's perspective, is that this guy had so much women just throwing it at him that he could charge $100 for raw dog sex. No women are doing. I mean, there's no women going on. Where was the site they found this guy on? On these escort services saying, yeah, I need this guy raw dog. The only people who were showing interest in his service were undercover cops. I guarantee you. The undercover cops, because there's no women who were like, I need raw dog from a chubby Asian guy. Or just any guy. Like, it's just not how this is such a setup. This is such a what a waste of time and a waste of resource. They let me send you police officers to go catch random clown guys who are offering prostitute services that literally nobody is going to take them up on. Literally 0 people are going to ask this person to have sex with them for prostitution. Let's send some cops out there. They could have been doing so many other things to stop crime. You know what happens if they don't do this? This guy puts a post up for a couple of hours, a couple of days, and goes, oh, well, prostitution didn't work. Guess I'll get back to clowning. This poor guy's probably broke. And the cops are going to get a butt. They're going, we stopped this prostitute. Maybe I'll read further and it'll change that opinion. I guess I should have read the whole thing first. All right, here it says when he showed up at the hotel, of course, he was arrested. Of course. During police questioning, he claimed this was the first time prostituting and stating this was his first time in these cock-sucking cops. And I mean, this is such bullshit. I mean, the guy's obviously delusional, thinking that he's going to be able to charge, like somebody's going to say, yeah, $100. Bring me that Bear D. The guy's delusional. Cops just take advantage of stupid people, man. And people who are down on their luck. It's bullshit. He told the cops that he's a professional clown and recently got back from traveling with the circus. The former cops reported stated money was so low that he was prostituting to supplement his income. They fucking took advantage of this poor guy. Phone number in the escort ad appeared to have the Amazing Franco's Facebook page. So he put his actual... He never thought in a million years... He probably just put it up there as a what the hell. I mean, this is bullshit. I feel sorry for this guy, man. That's messed up, dude. Let's see if there's any more information about what the cops did in the actual... He was read his Miranda rights. He said money was low. What? I mean, do you feel good about, as a cop, making a bust like that? I mean, do you? You should feel like a piece of shit. This guy was probably like next to homeless, honestly. I got to look at another one now. So I thought that might be a funny one, but that actually pisses me off. So I'm going to see if we can find one that's a little bit. No, that one's not. Let's see. Man meets angler. Let's go back home, see if we find anything else. Bored cops looking for... I guess... Quantum. I just... That poor guy... You know, he's got to pay for that. Like... That's going to be on his record. There's no telling how much it's going to cost. Like so the dude doesn't have any money already. And he thinks, you know, maybe some girl will pay for my D, which is, guys, it's, you know, if you're a hot chick, that's maybe a little bit better possibility. But guys, it's probably not going to be the best way to earn money if you're completely broke. If you're like, I have no money left, I need money today. Prostitution is probably not best for a guy. There's probably better ways. For a girl, if you're hot, I'm not saying do it. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? OnlyFans works better for chicks. But this guy's down on his luck, and they're going to arrest him, and he's got to spend money to get a lawyer. He's got, I mean, it's just such bullshit. And they celebrate these things. It's just like celebrating capturing the guys who were behind the Michigan Whitmer plot, which was just a bunch of FBI agents entrapping a bunch of idiots. I mean, go investigate real crimes. There's plenty of them. How about go investigate Kamala Harris and the Knights Templar shit? ask her fucking questions instead of messing with some fucking circus clown who needs a few bucks and just wants to offer some bareback sex because he's too delusional to realize that's not going to make him any money. Last story before we get out of here. It is sad, man. I feel sorry for the guy. I mean, they should clear. I mean, that's fucked up. Cops, emperor helper found with no clothes. Despite loyal dispensation claim, trespass suspect arrested. The emperor's helper had no clothes, Florida police say, following recent reports about a male intruder sleeping inside a Vero Beach apartment complex stairwell. An officer on foot patrol yesterday found the suspect standing inside a common room around 3 a.m. Okay, so the guy was drunk late at night. This is another guy they messed with. Gregory Gornell was fully nude and said that he was staying at the facility because he was the emperor's helper. He reportedly told the officers that the building, an independent living community for residents over the age of 62, was under new management and that the emperor told him he could stay there. He previously had been trespassed from the building. Was asked how he got in contact with the emperor. The suspect advised that such royal outreach could be done through the electric lines. Charged with trespass, he pleaded no contest in which educated. He was guilty of a misdemeanor for which he will spend the next week locked. That's another stupid arrest. His occupation listed as construction. So the guy's a drunk. And he'd been arrested. But that's, so I think there's more to that story I'd like to see. I'd like to know who the emperor is. And so somebody invited him to that. You know what I think that is? I think that's people over 65 who are like, let's mess with this guy and tell him we're the emperor and we'll invite him in to our Vero Beach thing. So that's all the stories I'm going to do. Those stories at the Smoking Gun, usually I hope are going to turn out a little bit more fun than that, to be honest with you. They just kind of ticked me off. And I feel sorry for the clown. But, maybe if Kamala Harris is president, police will get their act in order. You guys think? What do you guys think? Leave a comment on the messages or on Twitter or whatever. Do you guys think Joe is going to step down and Kamala will be president and become an incumbent? Or do you think they'll try and somehow make Joe last his whole presidency and ultimately try and do some sort of open convention and replace her? And who do you think they will replace her with? Either way, it's probably going to be pretty wild, pretty entertaining. So I hope you guys have a good week. I'm going to be going to the Bitcoin conference later this week with Josh, Fake Trump, and I know Jake will be there from Liberty Libations, and hopefully we'll have some fun stuff to put up for you guys. But thank you guys for hanging out in the chats and for watching this Monday morning. Have a fantastic week. YouTube.com/Brad Binkley. Propagandafight.com is my website. Freedom Act Radio and X. Rumble/The Prop Report. And Rockfan/Propaganda Report. Patreon.com/Propaganda Report. All of the websites and the links, guys. All of them. Happy July 22nd, 2024. We'll talk to you next time. Have a fantastic rest of your day.